You know, I hear a lot of rhetoric in Washington saying, we're going to use solar, wind, and geothermal to reduce oil use and oil imports. Explain to me how that works. Where does your car plug in? The answer is it's just rhetoric with no basis in fact. And you know, in that degree, I hear a lot of discussions in Washington about misrepresentations and not being factually accurate. Well, that is especially true of the energy situation. I won't address health care, but it's clearly true that a lot of supposed facts are not facts in Washington. So the thing is, we've got 250 million cars that don't plug in. They're going to last for 20 years. And so for the foreseeable future, we're going to need oil to power those cars. Now, where else do we get energy? Well, we get about 23% from natural gas. A lot of it is in power generation. It's used in chemical operations. And some of it is used in transportation. If you heard Boone Pickenson's plan to be able to use natural gas to power heavy-duty trucks, that's a laudable opportunity. And it's technologically feasible right now. It may be expensive, but it's doable right now. And so that 23% could expand. If it's used in transportation, then yes, it could reduce oil use, but we're going to need all of the other things to be able to make that happen. The fueling stations, we're going to need the vehicles, we're going to need everything. But natural gas is truly a wonderful opportunity in a lot of different areas. We also get about 23% from coal. Over 50% of our electricity is generated by coal. And so that's an important discussion right now in terms of what everybody's hearing about in terms of the climate debate. Because if you cannot solve that problem of 53% problem, or situation rather, change the situation, because I don't want to disparage coal, change the situation of how you generate your electricity, you're not going to solve the problem. You have to have reliable electricity supplies to be able to keep our economy going. And in that vein, natural gas is especially important. Because while you talk about generating electricity from solar, wind, geothermal, those are intermittent sources. Without backup generation of natural gas, they will not exist. It's a simple fact that without gas, there's no wind. Without gas, there's no solar. So one of the things that will be very important going forward is establishing that link to be able to develop these new sources. And then, of course, nuclear power is roughly around 8% of our supplies. Hopefully, we'll see more nuclear power coming forward. It's an excellent opportunity. Although I must say I never dreamed it would happen possibly again, because on March 31st, 1979, I drove by the cooling towers of 3 Mile Island on a Saturday morning that they weren't sure it wasn't going to explode. Well, it didn't. The safety systems worked, and so we've gone forward with a very clean, very safe energy source, and hopefully that will expand. And so then finally, renewables. I mentioned solar and wind, but we also get a lot of power from hydro, although nobody's talking about building any dams. And we get a lot from primarily wooden waste. So that rounds our energy supplies. So with new and natural gas, we actually have an opportunity to do a lot in terms of both adding our reliability of our energy supplies. Also, I should say, everybody turn off your phone. In any case, of what is a reliable energy supply, what we can possibly do with it, and then how it can be used in factors that you hadn't seen otherwise. Natural gas, in terms of the transportation fuel, is actually a doable fuel right now. Whereas we do not know at this point, will the electric car work? I certainly hope so. I hope that the Chevy Volt will roll out. I hope that these other electrics will roll out. But then you still have issues of where the electricity is going to come from. And natural gas is potentially one of the good sources for that. Right now, it would be fundamentally coal. In terms of other types of technologies going forward, I think we can clearly see that there will be a lot of new energy forms. But in Washington, what we have seen all too often is what people say is we need aspirational policy. Well, unfortunately, if aspirational policy is not tied to facts, it's delusional policy. And so that's why the Marcellus shale gas and development and so on is so very important. Having grown up dirt poor in Pine Creek, I would have loved to stay around here, would have loved to have a job, would have loved to still be up in those dear old mountains of my youth. but it just wasn't possible with the employment situation. So I really hope that we see this move forward. I think it'll be a win-win for everybody. It has to be done in an environmentally responsible way, and API is contributing in that with recommended practices that we'll be rolling out with these new opportunities. And believe me, there is nobody more interested in keeping the environment clean and proper, and especially Pine Creek, than me. And so when you hear some of the rhetoric from people who simply don't like producing hydrocarbons of any type, I would ask you to ask them very hard questions on what are the facts here. Lou and his colleagues will present a lot of the details on it. And so I'll stop there, and I would just like to stop and say thank you very much for an opportunity to come up to Williamsport again. The last time I spoke before an auditorium in Williamsport, it was not the most, shall we say, pleasurable outcome. It was one of those, I guess, February dates where Jersey Shore High School, where I graduated from, came down to wrestle Williamsport in what was then your brand new high school. And I was the heavyweight wrestler at that time, and up to that point I had a perfect record, 10 losses. We went into the final match, which of course, of those who know, the final match is the heavyweights match, and Jersey Shore was down 1 point. I had to win. You know what happened? I tied. Came close, gave it my best, but in any case, this is a whole lot different. I've remembered that day ever since, or rather I should say I tried to forget it, but nevertheless, I still have tremendous warm feelings for this entire area. I love coming up here to visit. I took the opportunity to stop at Henry's up the road a little bit for dinner, and I was especially pleased that when I drove through Avis that the barber shop that I got my hair cut starting when I was about this tall is still there. But you know what? A lot of other businesses that I passed by that I remember from my childhood are not there. A lot of it is cyclical, the current recession, but a lot is secular. Let's see a development effort that focuses on building the economy here and bringing those businesses back. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.